Okay, here I'm going to address problem number 2 of the study guide, which is a word problem, but again, it goes back to using systems of equations. So we have, at a farmer's market, a customer pays $16 for 4 apples and 4 oranges. Another customer pays $17 for 3 apples and 5 oranges. So out of these statements, we have to create a system of equations. So from the first statement, we can create one equation, and from the second statement, we can create a second system of a second equation. So part A, it says write a system of equations you can use to find the cost of 1 apple and the cost of 1 orange. All right. So I'm going to go to my paper and show you how this should look like. Okay, so we have at a farmer's market, a customer pays $16 and $16 for 4 apples. So 4, and instead of A for apples, I'm going to use at for apples. So remember, the at will represent apples and Y will represent oranges. So pay $16 for 4 apples and for 4 oranges. So 4 apples and 4 oranges. $16 for both of them together. Then another customer pays $17. So $17 for 3 apples. So 3, remember, X represents apples. And 5 oranges. 5 and Y represent oranges. So 5 oranges and 3 apples. $17 equals $17. So we got our system of equations here. Now let's solve for it. So I could use 2 methods. It's a method of elimination or a method of substitution. So I'm going to solve this using method of elimination, since I find it easier to eliminate rather than to isolate a variable. I will get a lot of fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm pretty much looking for 2 values to be the same but just different signs. So I'm going to work with trying to get rid of the x variable. So I'm going to multiply my equation on the bottom. I'm going to multiply it by a -4. By -4. The pencil doesn't look really good. And the top equation, I'm going to multiply it by +3. So why -4 and why +3? So the thing is, after multiplying first by -4, this value, I'm going to get -12. Now, what times 4 will give me +12? Well, 3 times 4 will give me +12. So from here I get +12, and from here I get -12. And that's pretty much what I want. So remember that the 3, I'm going to multiply it to every single value in my system. Well, in my first equation. And the -4, I'm going to multiply it to every single value on the second equation. So I'm going to get 2 new equations that look like this. So 3 times 16, that is 48, equals 12x plus 12y. Now -4 times 3, that's -12x minus 20y. And then we've got -4 times -17. That gives me -68. Lost my pen. -68. That's a horrible 8. There we go. So now I can add these 2 equations. And I got From 68 and negative 68, I get negative 20. From 12x and negative 12x, those cancel out. And then from 12y and negative 20y, I get negative 8y. So for y, so divide by negative 8, divide by negative 8, and I get that y equals, these cancel out, y equals is going to be positive 20 over 8. I can simplify this to be 10 over 4. And I can simplify further to have 5 over 2. So y can simply be equals to 5 halves. So I got my 5 halves, and I got my equations. Now I'm going to choose the easiest equation that I can think of. I think that would be maybe that one. So I'm going to take my top equation, and I'm going to replace my y value by 5 halves. So I'm going to take this top equation. I got 16 equals 4x plus 4 times what's y? My y value is 5 halves. 5 halves. There you go. So this will simplify to 16 equals 4x plus we get 20 over 2 simplifies to 16 equals 4x plus 10. Subtract 10 to both sides. I'm solving for x. I get 4x equals 6 divided both sides by 4. And I get x equals 6/4, and 6/4 simplifies to 3 halves. So x equals 3 halves. So these two are my answers, my x value and my y value. So I can rewrite it as x to be 3 halves and y to be 5 halves. That's what I'm looking for. So part B of the problem, it's asking solve the system of equations and describe your steps. So I might not ask you to actually describe it, but if you can show me step by step what you did, I mean showing your work, that's definitely full credit. Then part 2, it says describe another method you could use to solve the system of equations. So we solved the system of equations using the method of elimination. So you can just describe that you could also use, you can also solve this problem using the method of substitution. And that will be for part C. So just say, I can also use the substitution method. And that'll be it for number 2.